in this week's Parsha. Okay, very beginning. VaYakhel Moshe, and Moshe gathered, called the whole community of the children of Israel to assemble, and said to them, these are the things that God commanded to make. 6 days, 6 days work may be done, but on the seventh day you shall have sanctity, a day of complete rest to God. Whomever performs work on this day shall be put to death. You shall not kindle fire in any of your dwelling places on Shabbos day. Then it continues, take for yourselves an offering for God. Every generous-hearted person shall bring it, namely God's offering, gold, silver, and copper. Now, what's the connection between Shabbos and then the laws of the tabernacle? We'll come to that later, but we'll get to that. But we see it starts right away with Shabbos and then goes right into the home for God, the Mishkan, as we would call it, donating materials for the construction, the details of it, the design and all the features and so on are in this week's Parsha. Of course, this is a continuation starting from Parshas Truma a few weeks ago, where the original command came, and now comes to the people, and they're actualizing and doing everything in this week's Torah portion. So the Mishkan is a tent. We call it Oyhel Mayeh, the tent of meeting, right? And as a matter of fact, in English, tabernacle, not right? Tabernacle is a Latin word that means tent, meaning it's a temporary dwelling, as we know. So when I was a kid, and I was in, the Cubs, the Boy Scouts, it was a temporary dwelling that you stayed overnight. It's not something meant to be for the long term, right? It's not. The final destination would be in Jerusalem, where we build the Beis Hamikdash in the land of Israel, in Yerushalayim. Right. Now, gold and silver, as we read, are the first two of a long list of donated items. But of course, much more than the money, it's about being crafted or a ultimate focal point of where Jewish life would be. And where's that? And ultimately in Jerusalem, by the Holy Temple, where the presence of Hashem would be. And so it's not about the gold, the silver, and so on. It's about the fact that this is one people under one God. This is their place, right? Now, as we know, first temple was destroyed, and the second temple was destroyed, right? How do we understand that? In human terms, we understand that, we build things and they get destroyed. Right now, the Jewish people are fighting Hamas. So to defeat Hamas is a difficult thing because it's defeating an ideology. Ideologies live beyond the people. So it's quite a great challenge. Might be able to beat them down for a while, but if the ideology continues, it lives on, and it'll live on in the hearts of others, right? But here we're talking about Judaism, and since Torah mitzvahs are God's eternal desire, Judaism is eternal, and God's truth is expressed in Torah mitzvahs and Judaism being eternal. So how is it then the home for God, where is the place where it is expressed most intimately, is a place that isn't eternal in the sense that it gets destroyed? First temple, second temple, right? Yes, we have the Western Wall now, and there's a remnant of holiness. Of course, it's there, but the home for God is gone, right? So how do we understand that in terms of, Judaism being eternal? All other mitzvahs are eternal, right? Tefillin, Shabbos candles, tzedakah. But the Holy Temple, how do we understand that? And if that's the case, we're learning from Parshas Truma to the end of next week's Parsha, not this week, but next week's Parsha, Pikudei. So it's Truma, Tetzavet, Kisisa, VaYakhel, Pikudei, 5 Torah portions that the main thrust, the main thrust of many of them, of the 5, is about the Holy Temple, about the Mishkan, and later, of course, being the Holy Temple. How do we understand it, that there's such a main thrust? There's so much about it, so many verses, so many portions, and yet it's not eternal. It's not eternally here, those mitzvahs. And so to understand this, the spiritual quality of the Beis Hamikdash, and the investment that was put into it, time, money, and effort to create the home that would not be a permanent home, let us understand the deeper concept that it ultimately is to bring to us. And that is the world of Mashiach, where we'll have revealed presence of God, which will then be permanent. Let's go to text number 2, please. Okay. So the verse from Isaiah says, "And God's glory shall be revealed, and all flesh together shall see the mouth of God spoke." Openly revealed presence of God. That's what is the central defining feature of the Messianic era. God's presence. As we say in the Machzor, Rosh Hashanah, reign over the entire world in your glory, be exalted over all your over all the earth in your splendor, and reveal yourself in the majesty of your glorious might over all the inhabitants of your terrestrial world. God's glory will be revealed all over earth. Every living creature will recognize God's presence, as the Mittler Rebbe, second Rebbe, expresses. The prayer states that all flesh will see the divine presence, or even animals will recognize their creator. The prayer continues, and every created being will perceive, for this there will be a heightened awareness of godliness in the world, as there was prior to the sin of the tree of knowledge. Okay. Peace and plenty will be a derivative, a consequence of God's presence that will be recognized, right? So that sounds great. But the question is, how do we suddenly transform to God mode? Where will all this divine energy come from? Hamid, the table here is shaking. Just it just makes everything shake that people see. Nothing to be sorry. Something about the table got to fix. So this manifestation isn't coming out of nowhere, like all of a sudden thrust upon us, but it's a culmination of the energy that's and the light that has been built up over the course of history. In other words, our engagement through the times of exile, as the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, which we're coming to soon, in chapter 37 in Tanya, it says, now this ultimate perfection of the Messianic era in the time of the resurrection of the dead, meaning the revelation of God's infinite energy in this physical world, is hinged upon our actions in divine service throughout the period of exile. For it is the mitzvah itself that causes, creates its reward by performing the mitzvah and draws down godly energy from above. So every mitzvah produces powerful energy, powerful light. We don't perceive it right now, right? We're not experiencing the divine right now, right? But it will radiate in this world. All the good that we will do, well, the divine light will pulsate in this world, and that we will recognize and see it for ourselves, right? In other words, Mashiach comes, that which we're doing now will experience then, right? Today we don't see the effect. We're not privy to it. Our souls are not refined enough that we can. Only the truly righteous do. But for us, it will be, so to speak, it's stored in the very fiber and the DNA of creation, but will be revealed to us in the Messianic era. Now, that might not be so motivating, might be a bit abstract, but let's take this a bit further. Right? And how does this, help us today? So Koheles, Ecclesiastics, King Solomon, the wisest of all men. So he said, remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the difficult days come, and your years arrive about which you will say, I have no desire in them. So the literal meaning of this passage from King Solomon, he's encouraging us to take advantage of our youth. In other words, serve God, do tshuva, study Torah, while you still have energy and motivation. One day you're going to get a little older, right? It's not going to be so easy because you're going to be set in your ways. And it's hard to change your ways. It'd be more difficult, right? Then you will say, I have no desire for them. That's a simple meaning, right? That's the simple meaning. But our sages interpret this in a more cosmic level. The Talmud says, and even contrasts not only youth, but with old age, but the present era with the Messianic era. And this is what the sages say in the Talmud tractate Shabbos. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, perform mitzvahs while you still find opportunities and you have the financial means and you're still under your own control, as King Solomon in his wisdom said, and remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Youth means today, as opposed to when we get wise, right? Before the difficult days come. This refers to old age. The years arrive about which you will say, I have no desire in them. This desire is to the Messianic era, in which there will be neither merit nor liability. So what does that mean? I have no desire in them. That's an allusion to the era of Mashiach? What does that mean? You have no desire. Don't we have a desire for Mashiach now? Of course we have, right? So what does it mean? For 2,000 years have we had a desire for Mashiach to come, and now when Mashiach will come, neither merit nor liability will be? What does that mean? What does it mean that you won't have a desire? How do we understand that? So, times of Mashiach, evil will be eradicated. Destructive forces and unhealthy inclinations will be removed from our hearts and our minds. As Zechariah the prophet says, I will remove the spirit of impurity from the land. In other words, it'll be easy to do the right thing. You'll only want to do the right thing. Effort, struggle will not be there. This is what this verse is describing, that there will be no desire. A desire for what? A desire for materiality as its own end. A desire for the things that we desire and lust for today. We won't have a desire for that. We will have richness. We will have all the delicacies of the world, but we won't be driven by it. We won't have a desire for it.
Rabbi, question. Does this mean that the animal soul is completely suppressed, or that's something else?
Not suppressed. It's uplifted, exalted. Let's see Nachmanides, what he says on this. From the time of creation, every person has possessed the power to do as they please, to be righteous or wicked. This grant of free will applies likewise to the entire Torah period, so that people can gain merit upon choosing good and punishment for choosing evil. But in the Messianic era, the choice of their genuine good will be natural. The heart will desire the improper, and it will have no craving whatsoever for it. This is reflected in the teachings, and years will arrive about you, which will say, I have no desire in them. I have no desire in those things that are wicked, those things that are self-serving, those things that are, that are not in the service of God, which our sages explain refers to the Messianic era, when there will be neither merit nor liability. Why? For in the Messianic era, there will be no evil desire in humanity. Rather, every person will naturally perform the proper deeds. Thus, there will be neither merit nor liability in them. For merit and liability are dependent upon desire. If you don't have desire, right? I'm drinking water now. I'm breathing right now. How much of an effort is there in breathing? Nothing, right? It's natural. You don't have to struggle to breathe. God forbid we should ever have to struggle to breathe, right? God forbid. To drink water, not an effort. Yes, you got to be mindful to make a blessing and so on, but there's no effort and there's nothing. There's not a struggle that you have to go through. It's natural to drink some water. It's natural to breathe. L'chaim. And to say l'chaim, right? That's how mitzvahs are going to be. Why? Because God will be in the air. God will be like flowing like water. His presence, his reality. And therefore, to do a mitzvah will be just commonplace, will be natural, no struggle. Therefore, there's no liability, but then there's also no merit, right? There's really not much merit. Is that clear? So, look now, what does that mean then today? How now do I look at today vis-a-vis the times of Mashiach?
Today's the day of our youth.
Right? Which means?
We can do as much as mitzvah.
Yeah.
We can do as much as we can, and it is our choice. And then our merit, our accomplishment. Right? In other words, that means now's the time to invest, because now we can make a difference. Right? We can make a powerful change for the future. In the times of exile, Golus, the investment, it's the era of just do it. Just do it. Talmud tells us in text number 10, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, this is the meaning of the verse, and you shall keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments that I command you today. What does it mean today? To do them. It means today is the time, meaning in your youth, meaning in the Golus and exile, right before the Messianic era, to do them in this world, and tomorrow is not the time to do them. as there is no obligation or opportunity to fulfill the mitzvahs in the world to come. Furthermore, it means today is the time to do them, but only tomorrow is the ultimate future. It is the time to receive the reward for doing them. So our parents, our grandparents, great-grandparents, all the way back, they've always been trying to make a better place for their children, for the world. And we always made choices based on that to give more Yiddishkeit, more of a connection, a divine connection, more mitzvahs to fulfill, right? In order to impact our family and our communities around us. Why? Because our actions have consequence. They have a consequence. So we've always been working to make the greatest impact that we can, because today is the time we can make the impact. Today is when we have the choice between living a life that is just self-absorbed, right, and not making an impact, or a life that we engage and make an impact, right?
Yes, Rabbi.
So then what's the time of Geula? What's the time of redemption? What's the time of redemption then? Of times of Mashiach. Time of redemption, it's sort of like the golden years. You've worked hard for your family. Now you've got the golden years. Sit back and relax, enjoy the accomplishments of your work. I got a phone call today from some of you remember Beryl Solomon. So he said, he had a dream about me. I'm sitting in a beautiful home on the beach with all of my children, and that I'm very wealthy and owned a lot of homes. Three homes. So I corrected in my own 11 homes. My home and my 10 children's homes. I mean, I don't literally own them, but so I'm more wealthy than your dream was. Right? What's the dream? You put hard work in, right? And then when you're raising the family, are you doing what? You're investing in the family. You're working hard. And then you hope to get the payoff afterwards.
Amen.
Children that follow the path, grandchildren who follow it, right? And then you invest, work hard, and then you get the payoff in the golden years. I'm far away from golden years, but still getting some payoff, and someone's even dreaming about it for me.
Rabbi, Beryl Solomon, that's amazing.
You just told me today how that fits with this. Unbelievable, huh? Unbelievable.
Wow.
Well, I said, for him it was a dream. For me, it's a reality. I have, but in the youth, you work for it, and then you have, God willing, right, the payoff. In other words, when you're working hard, you're not experiencing the pleasure of it, right? Right? You're not experiencing the pleasure. You're experiencing the hard work. You're experiencing the hard work, right? And only afterwards can you look back, and not look back, but look forward and see what you have because of the hard work in your family, right? Which, of course, brings to great joy. So, this is what Mashiach means. Well, let's look at text 11. From the previous Rebbe, when Mashiach comes, it speedily come in our days, amen, then we shall really long for the days of the exile, when we truly feel distress at our having neglected working at our spiritual service. Then we will indeed feel the deep pain caused by the lack of our spiritual service. These days of exile are the days of spiritual service to prepare ourselves for the coming Mashiach may come speedily in our day, in our time. Amen. So look, let me go with the metaphor back. I'd be quite honest with you. When I look back, now when I'm sitting on the beach, sitting at the home. Actually, it's interesting because a year ago when we had the whole family together with the last wedding that we had to make for our son Shneur Zalman with his dear wife Menu. And we're there with the entire family and all the children and grandchildren all together. It was beautiful. But, I also look back and say, I could have done this better. I could have, dealt with this child in a better way. I could have dealt with another child in a way that would have enhanced their lives and so on and so forth. Well, you know what? That's also the way we will look at history when times of Mashiach comes. I could have done a lot more in the times when I could have done, when it's a merit, when it's a struggle, when it's a difficulty, when I'm raising the family of the Jewish people and the family of the Jewish nation, and for that matter, the entire world. So that says when Mashiach will come, we will look back and say, oh, there's a lot more I could have done. There's a lot better I could have done, and so on. I could have invested more into my family.
So is there regret? Like I kind of find, this a bit hard to understand. Because if it's going to be easy to do mitzvah,
yes, the ease to do mitzvahs will be there. The regret will be that when it was difficult, I didn't invest more. Because I'll look back and I'll see. In other words, let's put it this way: if I would have invested more in my children, I'd have a greater return today, right? So the same thing. If I would have invested more in my service of God when there was a struggle, I'd have a greater return at the end when Mashiach comes. Right?
You made it sound like a utopia when Mashiach comes. So why
it is and it is.
That?
It is and it isn't. Nothing's ever perfect, because there will still be growth in the times of Mashiach, not between choosing good and evil, choosing good and greater good. Right? Good and greater good. That's what will be in times of Mashiach. Right.
Rabbi?
Now, yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
We don't know. At that time, you made the right decision. You can't always look back. We could fantasize, oh, yes, it could have been this. We don't know. The environment didn't provide you the opportunity or your state of mind.
Yes, you're right, Esther. You're right. We don't know what would have been with. I'm not talking about what would have been.
And you also don't know if you would have done that, you would have gotten the desired results.
I understand.
You were talking, I know many people who have taken incredible, attention to their physical health and mental health, whatever, and then they're stricken with cancer. Or, like I've mentioned before, sometimes all it takes is a drugged or drunk driver to run a red light. Sorry, and God forbid it should ever happen. Do you follow where I'm coming from? I always look, one has to accept what Hashem gives you and work with what he works with. And, he's given us the manual, and look at the 613 mitzvahs and go forward. Sorry, I didn't mean to take up so much time.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You're right. Some things you have to accept that are beyond your control. You're right. I agree with you. But the things that are in your control, and we're using this as a metaphor, right? And I'm using me. I'm talking about me. Okay. I look at my kids and they're wonderful. They're great. I love them. And they're wonderful. So it's not a complaint. I don't have a complaint to them. I have, if anything, that I should have, I could have invested more. Now, whatever that means, whatever the return would be, how the return would be, there would be, right? Whatever that means, there would be a greater return, right? You're right. We don't know what happens to a child and what happens to grandchildren. We're not in control. I agree with you 100%. So it's not about controlling the end result. I agree with you totally on that. but it is that you have a greater return. That's the law of nature, that there's a greater return when you have the investment, greater investment, right? How much return is it going to be? Dollar for dollar? Is it going to be only 50 cents on the dollar? Or it'll be $2 on the dollar? Okay, that's not really necessarily, that's not the point. The point is that there is that sense of, I could have done that this way rather than that way. It would have been a better investment than the way I invested. That's all. And again, I'm using that as a metaphor that, as the previous Rebbe writes over here, that in the times of Mashiach, we will look back at these days as such opportunistic days that we will, in a way, feel, oh, I didn't use them out to the best. Because if I would have invested more then, I'd have even a greater return now. A greater return now, which now that doesn't take away from the times of Mashiach that we will have an unparalleled joy. The world will be transformed, and in the way that we spoke about, that the evil will be removed from the world, and we will perceive godliness, God's presence, just as we breathe now effortlessly. It will be effortlessly to perceive it, relatively speaking. That doesn't mean if we work a little harder, we'll perceive even deeper, more profoundly. Yes. But, just the basic living of experiencing the connection in what you are engaged in. That's amazing. So when I'm the kids now, I experience the connection much more profoundly than raising them, because when you're raising them, you're just investing, and there's a lot of effort, there's a lot of struggle involved in it, and you're not really like the golden years reaping the benefit just yet, right? Again, maybe obviously there's moments you're getting nachas from your children, and you're getting, they're doing wonderful things, and you have great pride and joy in them. 100%. We're talking about using this as a metaphor and the general idea. You're more investing in them, and that's what today is. We are investing to do the mitzvahs today. That's what we're all about, right? Now's the time for investment. In the golden years, in the times of Mashiach, we will experience the investment. See, that's a little different than in the metaphor. In the metaphor is I'll have the investment that I put in, I will now reap the benefits, right? Here it's even deeper than that. When I do a mitzvah in the times of Mashiach, I will experience that divine connection. Today, we're investing in the divine connection. We have the divine connection, but we're not experiencing it. We're not experiencing it today. We have faith in God that, yes, the good that we're doing is not just brownie points, right? But it is a connection. Are we really sensing connection today? Not the deep, profound connection of the times of Mashiach, because there's too much dirt on our soul. There's too much filth in the world, too much impurities in the world. Mashiach will come. The Ruach HaTuma Avim in Aretz, the impurities of the world will be removed. So there won't be any haze. There won't be anything blocking in our divine connection. Is that clearer? Does that make more sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now we motivate ourselves to do the mitzvahs. We don't see the tangible results, right? But Mashiach is coming very soon. And we know now is the time. Now is about tangible results. Now is about the investment. So we're motivated because we know we're making an investment. Next, number 12 from the Rebbe. My revered father-in-law, the previous Rebbe said, when Mashiach comes, it will grab our heads, and shout, "Gewalt!" And we could have accomplished so much more in Golus, and we missed our chance. Therefore, even though now we don't perceive the full value of our actions, the very knowledge that the time will come when we will regret our inaction should spur us to act. We must add to our study of Torah and the observance of mitzvahs in a manner exponentially greater than what we are doing until now. We must not suffice by adding only a little bit or even a proportionally great number, for the time will come when it will be too late to add even an iota. Rather, we must increase in an infinite manner, meaning a manner of self-sacrifice that stems from the very essence of our souls. With this, then, we can understand that the fact that the Holy Temple was destroyed, and we don't have it any longer, we still have it. All the mitzvahs that were done, they're still here, right? The mitzvahs don't go away. They're all the building blocks to bring to the final redemption, right? That experience is here. Right? So it's the beginning of time. We're investing in the future era. Preparation of Mashiach. So the Mishkan and the temples came along with blood, sweat, and tears, with gold, silver, and all the things, right? The sanctuaries. What was their purpose? It's to make a holy place in this world now, right? So how are they an investment? Well, King Solomon knew that they're not going to last. He even said that we should build underground a place where the iron the iron Kodesh should be hidden before the destruction. So he knows it's going to be destroyed. So if there's an extensive effort to build the temples worth that short-lived existence, so the first temple and the efforts invested in them planted the seeds for holiness, upon which the third temple will be forever stand, and from which the holiness will spread to the entire world. Right? So in other words, we built a first temple. It got destroyed after 410 years. A second temple, 420 years. For most people, that would be, whoa, that's a very long time for any kind of structure to be, right? No, it was a beginning, even though it would be known that it would be destroyed. Even the destruction is part of the rebuilding, because God will only destroy the temple in order that you can build something bigger and better thereafter, right? So the first two temples are investments. They're investments in the everlasting temple that will be the times of Mashiach. That's what it's going to be. Is that clear? But this now we can understand. We had a question. Why is Moshe instructing the laws of Shabbos before the Mishkan? Right? Remember? That was the beginning of the parsha. It says he gathered them and told them the laws of Shabbos. And then he goes into, it was only, I think, 3 verses on Shabbos. And then the rest of the parsha is all about the Mishkan. Right? So why? So Rashi explains in apparent. He explains it as follows. The warning is to keep Shabbos comes immediately before the discussion of the details of building the Mishkan, to indicate that the building of the Mishkan does not supersede the observance of Shabbos. Moshe is telling the people, build only during the week, not on Shabbos. Right? That's the simple meaning. But there's a broader message over here. What's the broader message? The Talmud tells us that the world will last only 6,000 years. We're in the year 5,784. the world as till Mashiach. Mashiach has to come by the year 6,000. Mashiach's coming today, but has to come by the year 6,000. Why? Because 6,000 years are like the 6 days of the week. What do you do for 6 days? You work. What are we doing now? We're working. We're investing in the world. We're investing in our families. We're investing in our children. We're investing mitzvahs in this world to make this world a more godly place. We invested it in the holy temples. We invested now in learning together and every mitzvah that we do. That's hard. The hard work. What's the 7th day? It's a day of rest. That's times of Mashiach. That's the times of Mashiach. Shabbos will be the era of ultimate rest, a day, and as we say in Birchat Hamazon, in the grace after meals, we say, Harachaman hu yanchilenu liyom shekul d'Shabbos l'menucha l'chayei olam. May the merciful one inherit that day that will be all Shabbos and the rest of life everlasting. Just as we experience Shabbos, we don't want to get out of Shabbos. It's so beautiful. It's so serene. It's so peaceful. There's no struggles with our boss. There's no struggle with paying the rent. There's no struggle with the things that you owe, because if you're observing Shabbos properly, those things don't exist. They might exist a minute before Shabbos. Come Shabbos, they don't exist, right? They don't exist. However, of course, if you want to experience Shabbos properly, what do you have to do? Prepare for Shabbos. Just like there's 6 days a week, those are the 6 millennia that we have to prepare for Mashiach, right? Just likewise for Shabbos. If you want to have a proper Shabbos, you want to enjoy your Shabbos, right? You have to prepare for Shabbos. You have to cook before Shabbos. You have to do all the things that you can't do on Shabbos before Shabbos, so that way you will be able to have a wonderful Shabbos. So likewise, we have to prepare now the world. We have to prepare the world with the mitzvahs that we do. We have to prepare ourselves to prepare the world. Every mitzvah, every time we study Torah, we're planting a seed that's going to sprout into a eternal Shabbos, of where there will not be any more pain and suffering, because God's presence will be like the water that we drink and the air that we breathe. It'll be so commonplace and so magnificent and so easy to perceive and to do good and to be kind and to be giving, and it'll be just such an easy, no effort. But today, it's an effort. We've got to extend ourselves. We got to work for it. We've got to, chaparain, as we say in French, right? And a chaparain. You got to grab. You got to grab the mitzvahs as fast as we can, as much as we can.
I think it's your accent. I'm not really sure.
Well, it's it's a Quebecois accent. That's why they don't get it. It's not Parisian. So it's not it's a pure land. Yeah. So that's where we are. So these are the beautiful times that we're living in. These are the beautiful times we're living in. All right. L'chaim, everybody. Any questions? Any comments? All right. Beautiful. Thank you all for joining. And we'll see you soon.
Shabbat Tov, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.